Hello, my beloved community. Domination tips. 2 minutes ago, I recorded my World War video for you, and I'm still very amazed about my attack. But we have to deal about the next topic. And yes, my last video about the Worldwar Base layout tutorials, how to build them and what are good in my opinion, is quite a long time ago. Our last Worldwar Base layout we talked about was the Enlightenment Age base, I think, and I finally got finished with the next graphic for you with the Industrial Age graphic, and I have also some very nice new content for you, because in our Alliance chat we had some really hot discussions about whether it's better to play with the Forbidden City or whether not, because you can demolish them with the demolition tactic, blah blah blah. But in the end, I came to my own conclusion that it would be really nice that also the players among you, which are playing with the Forbidden City, would be grateful, I think, if I would present a very severe or sufficient base layout for them, how to play with the Forbidden City. Therefore, I also created a Forbidden City layout. And yes, guys, it took me 4.5 hours to completely arrange and search a location for every building so that it has the most sense to prevent enemy getting a quick victory or even at all a 5-star victory about your base. I nearly had a very nice base layout for you. I will show it to you later. I nearly had a very nice base layout, but then I saw there's a really big mistake and I had to crush the complete base layout. That's why in total, or in the end, lasted about 4 hours or 4.5 hours to build it for you. Guys, we will now go in our ordinary base layout, which is still a very ordinary base layout for the Industrial Age, and I will show you the Forbidden City layout, and in a later video, the next video, we will talk about explicitly only about the Forbidden City layout. Here we are inside the base layout, and for all guys which are quite new, don't feel overwhelmed by this mass of information. I will guide you through and explain every function right after another. But before, we will take just a little look for all the players which are very fascinated and which can't await seeing the layout for the Forbidden City. Here we have my personally best layout I could think or I could create for the Forbidden City players. You see over here there is the Colosseum, but it doesn't matter. In my case, it's the Colosseum because I don't play with the Forbidden City. But for all guys of you which are playing the Forbidden City, just imagine there would be a Forbidden City. Therefore, next time we will just explain this layout about the Forbidden City, and I hope you will be quite amazed and can't await the time. But now we are in our ordinary or our classical layout, and therefore we will easily begin. It's very easy, you see. The aim of this base is to get or to avoid or prevent that the enemy will take a quick victory star at you, or even if it is possible to prevent that the enemy takes at least 5 or 4 stars. So to prevent that the enemy completely crushes your base. How do we do this? We place our town center nearly in the center of all explorated place. You can use exploration to get rid of some forests and get more space to create your base. And we have our town center nearly in the center. We have only a little the center a little bit more in the upper direction, like I show over here, to the Versailles, to make the enemy more attractive to attack from over here or over here, where are our strongest points of the base, and not to attack from over here. Therefore, we have our base or our town center not completely in the center of the map, just a little bit at the upper left edge. Our defensive buildings. Where we have our defensive buildings, we will again start with our mortars, and again the same explaining like in every video, because there are probably some new members, some new viewers outside which have not seen my other videos. The mortars are the defensive buildings in the game which have the highest range of all shooting buildings, like you can see in the right circles. The right circles are, like you can see over here, the mortars are red, and red, I meant red. The red circles are belonging to the mortars, the blue circles are belonging to the cannon towers, and the yellow circles are belonging to the wall runners. And by the red ranges or circles, you can see the mortars have by far the largest range of all defensive shooting buildings, and we have placed our mortars that close together in the center, that they are nearly all, sharing some firing space. You can see this right level 6 mortar down here at the right side is just sharing his range of fire with the down or the mortar below the town center, and with the top mortar. And the top mortar is sharing his range of fire with the left and the right mortar. The lowest mortar is showing with the left and the right mortar. And so all mortars are sharing their range of fire and can protect each other. Also, we have to see that the mortars in total, the ranges in total, if you combine them, are closing down and supporting, or better to say, defending the whole base. There is no hidden spot within the base or even outside the base which is not covered by a mortar. So the mortars can shoot everywhere right around the base. When you attack the base, it doesn't matter from where you attack, you will always get attacked by some mortars. Another aspect, we have placed the mortars very, very close together so that they are able to protect each other. But also, we have not placed the mortar that close together that you can disable 2 of them with 1 sabotage. You will use, or you have to use, 1 sabotage for every mortar if you want to disable them. Over here we have a range or a distance of exactly 4 units. At the right side the same. And so you just cannot, even if you think, just cannot disable these bows or these bows mortars just with 1 sabotage. So we have the maximum of defending each other mortar, but also not getting disabled by 1 sabotage tactic by closing the mortars together very, very close. The next defensive buildings we have are the cannon towers. The cannon towers are very essential because they are working together with our mortars. They are quite working in the other way around, like an opponent to the mortars. The mortars have a very high range, an area of damage, so AoE damage to very, very many troops. If there are some ranged infantry or even some close combat fighters, the mortars are very effective to them, but also the mortars are, because of their area of damage, because of their damage skills they have, not very effective against enemy cavalry or against enemy tanks. So we have to use other buildings against enemy cavalry or tanks. Therefore, we have our cannon towers, which are shooting, or which where with their cadence or their time of shooting is very, very long. They are only shooting every 3 seconds, and they are only hitting 1 target every time. So when they have shot, only 1 target is down, and then after 3 seconds they will aim for a new target. So if there are very many opponents attacking them, they are easily getting overwhelmed, and so their very strongness is to attack enemy cavalry or tanks, which have very high hit points but attacking in a low amount. And their weakness is if they are getting attacked by high amount of enemies, which have every of them nearly low or even middle health points or hit points, like enemy infantry or ranged infantry. So if you are combining mortars with your cannon towers, you are nearly getting rid of their weaknesses, because they are compensating their weaknesses and using their strengths to compensate, like I told you. We have over here our lowest mortar cooperating with our cannon tower, the left mortar cooperating with this cannon tower, the top mortar cooperating with this cannon tower, and the right mortar cooperating with this cannon tower. So from every kind or from every direction of the base, we have 1 mortar supporting or cooperating with 1 cannon tower. In which direction the cannon towers are the cannon towers are standing closer to the outer wall because of their lower range in relation to the mortars, and the mortars are staying right in the center because of their higher range. This constellation, I think, is very strong, because you are strong against nearly attacks from every side. You can get attacked. Sorry for my English today. Today my English is not very good, guys. I'm recognizing it on my own. The next we want to talk about is our air defenses. Yes, our air defenses are very important for the space layout. And so you can see the air defenses are also very strategical, located right in the center next to the town center. They are between both mortars to protect all mortars at least, and even some of the over here, some of the cannon towers. This cannon tower not anymore, but this cannon tower. So we have placed them right in the middle of the base. This air defense is quite upgraded, this one not, but it's only important where the location is. If you have upgraded them, it's just not important. Yes, that's the main function of the air defenses, to protect our main buildings like the mortars and even these cannon towers over here. Our redoubts are placed, let's see. Yes, just in front, but the position is quite, I think, not the optimum. You can just place them anywhere else. I chose this position because if enemy tanks are attacking from over here, they will activate the redoubt, and hopefully we have some ranged fighters which are very weak against redoubts, staying right in the range and getting killed by the redoubts. But you could also place them at some traps where our enemy better to say, where our defenders, which we are producing, are just entering or exiting our own base, so that they are working as a trap and attracting enemy infantry or enemy ranged infantry, so that they will run into the redoubts. So you can just overthink whether to place the redoubts quite at another place. They are not that much important to place them over there. We have also our bunkers. Our bunkers, it's very important where to place them. Initially, I planned to place them right over here so that both of them get the Acropolis boost, but also if you have placed them right next to another, there is a very high danger of that the enemy will just disable them by the sabotage tactic, and there is an even higher danger that the enemy will just use one betrayal tactic to, at least if he has a good timing, to get 2 heavy tanks on his side, which are then also staying quite next to the town center, and that's a huge danger for you. Therefore, I decided to not place them in the inner circle of our wall layer. I have just decided to place them in the outer circle. We have one inner circle of walls. Oh, I forgot to mention this point, the walls. We have just one inner circle of walls, which is only protecting some defender spawning buildings, and also our vault, which I will talk about later. Then we have our most important defensive buildings like our mortars, our air defense, the 2 cannon towers, and also the redoubts, which are probably not very important to place over here. Like I told you guys, we have also our tank depot, and I'm British, so my command post will spit out some Blackwatch, which are very powerful because of their higher range than ordinary ranged infantry, and they have more damage. If you are just not quite lucky or happy about your command post troops, you can just even take it out and switch it with another building, probably with another stable right over here, or even with a garrison or whatever. But we talked about our bunkers, and we have the bunkers right at the outside in the outer circle of our walls. So if an enemy is getting to sneak these troops right over here, if he will take it with the betrayal tactic to take it on his side, the troops will first just stay right inside of these of our barbed wire, so the attack speed and the DPS, the damage per second, will get reduced, so that that the tank, which got stolen by the enemy, is just not able to kill his own bunker. And we have our cannon towers over here, and they are very essential because they will aim for the enemy tank, which got enemy by the betrayal tactic, and just easily kill it, because it's the strength of the cannon towers to kill enemy tanks and enemy fighters with high hit points. Therefore, I think this location is quite great because their ranges are so far that they can nearly spot around the whole base. At these places, we have located them very symmetrical on the left and also on the right side, and we are protected because if the enemy is trying to get them with betrayal, He will not even be able to have them for a long time because we have our cannon towers here. And even if he is mentioning to destroy the cannon towers, the heavy tanks are not quite at the town center. They are just outside, and another wall layer is separating them from the town center. So I think this position is nearly the best one to place the bunkers in this layout we have actually over here. The next we want to talk about are our traps we have. And like you can see, like all base layouts we talked about before, this is a base layout where you want to make the enemy one direction of attacking very attractive. You want to steer the enemy and you want to anticipate from where the enemy will attack. And so all very unexpected, or not unexpected, all unexperienced enemies which will attack you will probably don't know the Versailles is having a very huge effect on the enemy troops. You can see, oh no, we talk about later within the World Wonders. We are just talking about our traps. We have over here one trap which I have to upgrade one time, and it's a spike trap, and these spike traps over here, they got already upgraded. They are landmines now, and they are very strong also against some targets which will activate them, especially against some enemy tanks. And the enemy tanks, because of their lower range, will just drive in front of all other enemy troops, and therefore we hope to get the enemy tanks right inside here to damage them before they can attack the wall. We have also our barbed wire over here, and we have placed the barbed wire that close to another that it is covering the complete distance over here and covering our hole. We have, like you can see, two and double wall layout over here, and only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of wall which are just not in a double wall layout, but on purpose to make it attractive for the enemy to attack over here. And these 3 pieces of barbed wire are perfectly protecting these 6 pieces of wall which are just not a double layer of wall. And every enemy which is staying inside the barbed wire has decreased enemy attack speed and decreased damage by about 45%. If you are accumulating or adding both words to another, you will see that the enemy troops are only nearly able to get a 20% strong attack as they would ordinarily do. So if an enemy which are staying here right inside the barbed wire would ordinarily do at least 100 damage per second on the wall, if they are staying right inside the barbed wire, they are only doing 20 up to 24 damage per second on the wall because of the decreasing factor of the barbed wire. That's what we wanted. We have our strongest wall layouts or strongest parts of walls right over here, and we have the barbed wire to make these walls as strong as possible. We have also some barbed wire over here on the left side and on the right side. That's because if the enemy is rallying over here and wants to attack from the left or from the right corner of your base, we want to avoid that the enemy can just shoot at the town center from over here. What we want to avoid that the enemy can deal very much damage if he is staying at the left or at the right side. There's also another factor I mentioned to you. We have our bunkers over here, and especially bunkers are very attractive to let the enemy use betrayal tactic to get one of our heavy tanks. And if the heavy tanks are spawning and the enemy is taking one of the heavy tanks, instantly when this tank is getting enemy tank, these barbed wire will pop out, will activate, will be triggered, and then the tank is only dealing very, very little damage, and he gets very slowed down. So that this barbed wire is quite working in combination or supporting the cannon towers, which will fight against the tanks if an enemy wants to take one of the heavy tanks. We have also some ambush traps over here, which are only there because I did not find a better solution or a better location. But we have also some functional traps, like you can see, one spike trap and also one developed landmine. And they are just in front of the gates because I already mentioned to you, there are some saboteur units which you are gaining or which you are getting access to in the Enlightenment Age when you build the factory. And from this point, when you build the factory, upgraded the factory one time, you are having access to the saboteur troops, and then you can build them. In the Industrial Age, you can just even upgrade them, but the function is still the same. They will sneak through gates without having to destroy the walls before to break the walls. They are not activating any shooting defensive buildings. They are only activating defensive buildings which are spawning enemies, like the town center, command post, stable, garrison, and bunker. And when the enemy is wanting to have his saboteur right inside the base, the saboteur, at least the first saboteur, if he is using more than one saboteur, this is just crazy. But the first saboteur will get killed by these traps behind the wall, and if he's sending another saboteur, this will get slowed down by the barbed wire, because the saboteur is always it's still the slowest enemy unit, or still the slowest unit in the complete game. And if it also or additional gets slowed down by the barbed wire, it just nearly quite does not move anymore, and then he can get overwhelmed by our spawning defenders. So that's why and where we have placed our traps. Now we are getting to the world wonders, and like I initially or 2 or 3 minutes ago explained to you, we have our Versailles over here. And pretty unskilled or unexpected players probably don't know, the Versailles has a very strong effect, and it's working like a big huge caltrop trap. So within the yellow rate or range, like you can see, it is slowing down every enemy which is passing this line. It is just not reducing the enemy damage like a caltrop trap, but it is slowing down the enemy troops. So if the enemy is spawning or rallying somewhere over here and the troops are passing this yellow marked area, they will get slowed down, and all of our defensive buildings which are staying over here have more time to shoot at the enemies. And that's very important. We have also another additional very important fact. The Versailles and also the Acropolis are not able to being destructed. They can be destroyed, but their effect will still stay active. So don't make any opinions, or don't think that you can just take the effect out by just attacking over here, rallying on the Acropolis or something like that. The Acropolis effect will still staying active, and you can just end this effect only by destroying the garrisons and stables which are within the range of the Acropolis. The effect of the Versailles you just at all cannot stop, because it's there. So the slowing down effect within the range of the Versailles is active for the complete attack, and you can't do anything about this. Therefore, we have placed our buildings, our defensive world wonders, in very strategical locations. I already explained why we have placed our Versailles right in front of our base. By the way, the Versailles is very essential for this base layout. If you have not the Versailles as world wonder, you can just place the complete base a little bit more down here to the Acropolis. You can just let the one wall layer tactic over here, you can just stop it and just not play like it, and so the complete base layout nearly gets less sense if you have no Versailles, only to mention. Now let's talk about the Acropolis. The Acropolis, if you probably know, probably don't know, is boosting your defender spawning buildings, like your garrisons, your also your Colosseum, but your stables, your bunkers, and even your command post. In which way it is boosting? It gives a 20% hit points bonus to every spawned enemy which producing building is right inside the Acropolis. So that means if one of these tanks over here, the building is quite not inside the range, if one of these tanks enter the area which is marked yellow over here from the Acropolis, this tank will get no hit point bonus. Only all buildings which are initially right inside the range, like you can see yellow highlighted over here, all of the defenders which are spawned by them are getting the bonus of plus 15% hit points, and this is no matter where they are on the map, no matter of location. We have also, so it is a plus 15% hit point bonus on every unit. I'm not quite sure of whether I have mentioned 20% before, but it is definitely 15% hit point bonus, and we have a 20% faster dropping or spawning of troops. So again, all buildings which are in the range of the Acropolis are spawning their defenders faster than before, and this faster rate is just fastened up by 20%. especially for our garrisons, not garrisons, especially for our stables or in the industrial age tank depots. This is a very beneficial effect because our stables are producing tank defenders or even cavalry, depending on the level you have upgraded them. And these cavalry or even tanks has already a very high amount of hit points, and so they are getting the 15% hit point bonus by the Acropolis. So now they are getting very beasts in the defensive, and they are getting even stronger than they were before, and also they are getting spawned very much more often and nearly overwhelming the enemy. So the Acropolis is a very strong defensive building, and it is important to place it at a very wise location, at a strategical location where it can reach nearly most of the defender producing buildings. Let's count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 defender producing buildings, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 defender producing buildings in total. We have 12 in total, and we have reached with our currently position of the Acropolis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 out of 12 buildings reached and effected by the Acropolis. That's a grade of effectiveness of about 66%. That's, I think, very high, because the more buildings you have, the harder or the more difficult it is to get every of this building right inside of the range. Therefore, I think 8 out of 12 buildings are quite great. At least the Colosseum, where to place the Colosseum is quite not so important, because the Colosseum has quite the hugest range of all defensive buildings. It's somewhere over here and nearly always covering the whole base. Therefore, in this case, if you have the Acropolis, it's only important to have the Colosseum right inside the range of the Acropolis to boost it. The next we want to talk about, I already talked about with you with the gates, where to place our highest walls. In this layout, it's very important to place your highest walls at some very specific locations. In front, where we have our separate and our one wall layer, where we want to make the enemy attractive to attack. Here it's very important, and I mean this over here, all places I'm tapping, and also, which is very important, this and this pieces of wall which are at the outer corner of our level 1, or at our single wall layer, better to say. This is also very important to get them in your highest available walls you have. That's very important. Then we have down here a double wall layer, and here it's very important to get our inner structure or the inner layer of our wall on our highest level, and the weaker level of walls at the outer side. Background is, if an enemy would, just only would, he's not doing, but if he would use a wall zapper, and this wall zapper ran over here, this wall zapper is just not caring which wall is over here, whether this is a stronger or even the weaker piece of a wall. If you have your strongest pieces of wall at the outer side, it will just crash through, and then the enemy troops which are following only have to get through the lower walls. But if you have your lower walls outside, the wall zapper will just only smash the outer wall, and then you have the stronger parts of a wall in the inner layer. And that's really, really important, because then there are more hit points to get through. If you have your wall layers not so close to another, like here, if you have some defensive or even other buildings between, then it's very important, especially if the town center is in reach or in range of the inner layer, then it's very important to have your outer wall layer as strongest parts of the layer. So your strongest parts of walls just at the outer side, if you have enough of them, and the weaker parts of the walls just at the inner side. Because if the enemy has just breached through this outer wall, no matter where, if he just got to the inner circle of the wall, then he just can, with his artillery and even with British ranged infantry, he can just shoot above this wall on our town center. And that's very important, why we want to make the enemy last as long as possible to get through this outer wall. That's not a very big factor, but it's also a little factor, which is these little factors we are all using are just accumulating. They are just adding to another and giving a big, huge build in the end, a big huge picture in the end, which is just why this base layout is so important and so effective. We have also the using of our space, and so I told you we have a space of nearly a square, like you can see over here. We have our exploration. We did our exploration so that we have nearly a square to build our base. There, because of this, we have the most freedom to place or locate our base in that way like we want it. We have, there's another very important factor I want to mention to you later. Just look down here. We have, I can just not very good show it to you because this is a picture. We have our oil well placed down here, and that's a very strategic factor. I will talk to you later. But you can see we have spread it out our buildings at the maximum. We have at the complete there are no possible space more at the right side, and at the complete left side we have also some buildings. So the enemy has to go over the complete space to destroy all buildings, and that will last him some time. We have also spread out our buildings maximum so that the enemy can just not drop his troops right over here between the buildings to get or to start closer to the walls. He has always start at the complete outer side at the forest. Now let's talk about where to locate our buildings. We have a very strong building. There are two buildings which you can use as very strong last buildings. The first is the oil well, and the second is the vault. And we have two very strategic locations. We have first another place right inside the base, and I decided to not place a defensive building over here, but to place our vault over here. And like you probably know, the vault has very, very high hit points. I think there is no building except for the castle which has the same high hit points. It's nearly 8,000 or 9,000. No other building. A mortar, for example, only has 3,000 hit points. So the vault has 3 times more hit points than, for example, a mortar. And we have these hit points over here to have additional hit points. If the enemy will attack from over here, the troops of him will make no difference between whether here is a defensive building or no defensive building located. And we have over here a very strong building, which is just in front of the mortar and our stable. So before the enemy troops will aim for these important defensive buildings, they will just before destroy the vault. And during this time, when they are just shooting on the vault, and that's a little, I think, probably it will last for some time, nearly 2 or 3 additional seconds. This mortar has some time to shoot again or to spit some enemy some defenders out from this stable. Therefore, we have our vault just inside, and at our very down position we have the oil well. Very often the enemy is just scrolling around the base, looking over here, okay, and just not recognizing that down here there's one last additional building. Then he will just kill all other buildings and see, oh wow, wait, we have not 100%. One building is remaining. Then he scrolls down here and sees, oh shit, there's the oil well. And the oil well, like I explained to you, also like the vault, has very many or very high hit points. I think nearly 5 up to 6,000. I'm not quite sure, but also very more hit points than all other buildings, and therefore here are some very high hit points which cannot easily destroyed by the enemy, not just by flying around with his airplanes like in house. If you have a house somewhere, you can just put your airplanes and it's completely crushed, but to crush an oil well you have to use some more firepower than only your planes. So guys, we are finished with our base layout. I'm very sorry guys for my bad English. I'm not quite sure what is wrong with me, but it's very late in the evening and I think that could be quite a factor. I hope this tutorial was nevertheless informative for you and you got a good idea of a base layout, or even you are probably using this base layout and this is helping you. Nevertheless guys, keep supporting. Await my next Worldwar Base layout. We will talk about the Forbidden City layout. Share this video, rate it. We'll see us soon. Your DomiNation Tips.